So, my friends, welcome to a new crypto update video. Bitcoin at 109,400 US dollars. We've had a very quiet weekend behind us, where in the end there were basically only falling prices. We found our low at around 106,500 US dollars. Shortly before the weekly close, things went up again, and I think we closed the week at around 109,000 US dollars. Whether that was really bullish, we'll definitely take a look at in the video in a moment. Of course, we'll also take a look at the stock markets, since there's a bit more movement there. The tariffs that Trump imposed on the EU on Friday are now off the table for the time being. And yes, of course, we'll also take a look at gold and Forex, so make sure to stick around until the end. But before we get started, please give the video a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and of course feel free to join the free Telegram talk and Signal group. If you're interested in updates, news, and signals, feel free to join. You can find the link for that for free in the video description. And if you're still looking for an exchange where you can trade everything we discuss here, feel free to sign up with my partner exchange, BingX. At the moment, you can get up to 11,500 USDT when you register. If you complete KYC, there's even an extra bonus voucher and so on. Just sign up using the link below in the video description or the comment section. So Bitcoin at 109,500 US dollars. And as I said, not much has really happened. We got our pump again last night, which, if I interpreted it correctly, is a vector candle. Exactly. We still have one left open from last week. That was here on Friday afternoon when there was this so-called dump from about 111,000 down with this dip to 107,000 US dollars. We still have a vector candle there. There's also quite a bit of liquidity lying there. Even if we take a quick look at the heat map, we can see it exactly here up to 111,400 US dollars. That means just a bit above this vector candle up to this top here where the London session was in this area. I could imagine that we might even rise again up to that point over the course of today, or to put it briefly, in the end, that we drop down here again, possibly see 108,000, and then sweep the liquidity in this area up here. In my opinion, that's where the decision will be made. The funding rates are still relatively reasonable, so nothing has changed. They only increased slightly over the weekend, but that's normal because retail investors usually just go long in the end. The big institutions usually don't trade during that time. But for me, that would be the first scenario where I would say, okay, 108,000 US dollars would be another opportunity to go long, and then up here at around 111,300 US dollars to slowly but surely start building a short position again. In my opinion, that currently makes the most sense, at least due to vectors and so on. The news situation hasn't changed since last week. We're still in a situation where the 10-year government bonds are still extremely high. We still have extremely high interest rates. Powell didn't really say anything new yesterday. It's going to get very interesting, and especially since this week, if I'm not mistaken, on Friday at 2:30 p.m. from the US, we'll get the PCE core rate, which means more inflation data will be released, as well as personal income figures, basically showing how the economy has behaved. So these are definitely going to be exciting days ahead this week, which could also possibly include a preliminary top. So I still kind of think that this might have been the top for now, and that we could go down again afterwards, maybe even into this area, 100 or even 88,000, 95,000. Somewhere down here, there's still quite a bit of liquidity lying around. Otherwise, if this really is the top forming right now, then we have a reversal like in 2021, because 2021 was about the same. And what I also mentioned, that was what I said at the beginning of the video, the weekly close wasn't ultra bullish. So you could say, okay, we got above the high, but above this top. And for me, that's the decisive weekly top, because that was the all-time high top. We just wrapped it over and closed it underneath. So we should have at least closed at 110,000 here. We closed at 109,000. That's not really good. It could lead to a swing failure pattern. That just means the liquidity was swept. Same thing as what happened here, where it was the all-time high, liquidity was swept, and then it went down, although you have to say the candle back then was clearly much more of a sell-off than is the case here now. Still, that doesn't mean we couldn't hit a new all-time high again this week, but the weekly close is crucial, and we also closed below the pivot R2, so be careful. I would continue to take profits. It's never a bad idea to sell a bit or secure some profits at the all-time high, and then you can see what happens with the rest. Let's move on to Ethereum. What has happened there? Absolutely nothing. So that was last week's analysis, and in my opinion, it's still valid. I'm still waiting for us to see these tops up here between 2,700 and 3,000 US dollars. So that's really all I'm waiting for. And if we quickly take a look at the vector candles here, we don't even have anything here. And on the 1 hour time frame, it should be in this area between 2,650 and up to 2,700 US dollars. Those are the key factors. In the end, it's basically the exact same picture as with Bitcoin. We have declining volume, rising prices. Not really bullish. Still, Ethereum could definitely catch up here, especially since Bitcoin has already led the way. So that's the target zone, and after that, we'll see what happens next. If we break through up here, we can reach our overarching target. Otherwise, it's probably more likely that we'll start building short positions. Slowly but surely. Let's move over to the traditional markets. Gold. Gold has, yes, broken through the golden pocket. We talked about that last week. We've reached the target up here, at least almost, just barely. We might even push above it today. That means it's possible this remains intact up to 3,370 US dollars before we might see another pullback. The 4-hour 200 SMA is also slowly moving here again. No, wait, that was on the 1 hour. Now it's the 4-hour. It's also moving back into this area here. Here as well, a quick overview. Vectors that we have down here, actually none significant, at least not on the 4-hour chart. Same story. Let's also take another look at the 1 hour time frame. Here we would have one. It fits very, very well all the way down to 3,270 with what I would call our target zone. If we should see a sell-off down here, that means that's the plan for now. At the moment, I wouldn't short gold simply because of the overall situation we have in the market. It's extremely difficult and to me just screams dump. So I would stay away from that for now and instead say, okay, we'll go long on gold down in this area. Some of you still have the position open in your place. I would already take the third take profit and then just wait and see. Then if you still have them open, you could even try a small short, but definitely smaller than the remaining part of the long position. So then, yeah, traditional markets. Sorry that I couldn't do it last Friday. I gave you the update in writing instead, but it just wasn't possible. I just don't have a proper setup while on vacation. That's why I'm sorry. Today, everything is back to normal. We had our sell-off of nearly 4% in the Dow Jones, which was then quickly bought back up. We closed in the golden pocket, which isn't exactly the textbook. Yeah, the textbook action I would want to see, because normally the golden pocket should act as support. Yeah, let's see. Let's also take a look at the weekly time frame here. Same game as with Bitcoin, more or less. Here too, liquidity was swept up. Not really bullish, you could say at this point. It will be interesting to see how the market behaves here now. We closed below the golden pocket. We grabbed the liquidity up here. Okay, we need to keep an eye on this. But to me, it doesn't look particularly mega bullish right now, even though Trump has left the tariffs on the EU in place for now. Let's move over to the Nasdaq here. Same story. Liquidity was taken above this high last week and it also closed below it. It's tricky, but we've already talked about this in the smaller time frames, that the target, especially when we just looked at the Dow Jones, is the golden pocket down here. If the golden pocket holds, the bullish scenario becomes active and we could head toward the all-time high. If this turns out to be a top, then we need to see whether this is really already the temporary top. Then we draw the FIB level from our low to our current high. We could even drop down here between 19 and 18.2 and it would still be relatively bullish. So the first support is actually the retest of our old golden pocket here. Otherwise, it will probably look very, very much like we will either find our bottom in this price range down here or the crash will just kick off completely. That will be interesting. We definitely need to keep an eye on these two boxes. And for the S&P 500, it's basically the same game as with the Nasdaq and the Dow Jones. Here too, the retest of the golden pocket hasn't happened yet. Let's see if this will be the one. Otherwise, it's the same game as with the Nasdaq. Draw the Fibonacci from our low to our high, and then keep an eye on this area around the 0.5 level where the gap is still down there up to the golden pocket. That could then be variant B, where we simply go down here, and then I'd say either we find support and reach a new all-time high, or the crash continues, and then for real, because if we look at the whole rally, there was a nice sell-off, then another higher top. It's quite possible that a wave 10 could hit and we drop significantly lower again. But all right, let's see what happens. And last but not least, the euro against the US dollar. The euro is definitely gaining at €1.14. Unfortunately, at least I didn't get in anymore. Didn't manage to get my long entry down here. Not last week either. We talked about it. 112 would have been a top entry, but unfortunately didn't get it. The euro continues to rise. We still have the short position open, and it will remain open for now, at least the remaining portion, because we might double up here again, since we are now at this top where we could encounter some resistance for the time being. Let's see how this plays out, whether we encounter resistance here, maybe get another entry signal and only then move further up, or if, for me personally, the train has already left the station. Otherwise, that's it from my side. Later, there will be an altcoin update video. Things are slowly starting to pick up again here, especially for the altcoins. And otherwise, I'd say that's it from my side. I wish you a great day. Take care. Leave a like, subscribe, join the Telegram group, and we'll catch up again later. Until then, ciao, ciao. And as always, stay crypt.